green plastic watering can for a fake Chinese rubber plant and a fake plastic girl. She bought from a rubber man in a town full of rubber plants to get rid of itself. Who wears around? Who wears around?
Alright, welcome to the Four Faliures. This is going to be an offshoot documentary from the Rascal documentary. This is going to be more about things unrelated to sensors, mostly about silicosis. It really caught my attention, the 12-person silicosis cluster in Texas. And I find it really interesting. The employer was kind of misidentified, and OSHA had been in there a couple years before and had silica sampling done. So I kind of want to look at why people are still getting sick from work and all the different causes. So I'm going to try to break things up into fours. So the four failures, which I define as a disaster of bad decisions and poor options. as opposed to a failure, which might just be an unsuccessful attempt at something. This is we've got to get to the roots of these problems and address them. And some of the things are not popular to address. And it's definitely a wicked problem. It's overly complicated. So the first of the four failures is, of course, the employer. When an employee gets silicosis, there's probably a lot of factors regarding the employer that contributed to that. And then I think the regulator takes some blame as well, or makes bad decisions, or doesn't act when they should. This came up, I remember when the mining in Appalachia, the increase in coworkers' pneumokinesis, there was a big article in a popular magazine or something talking about how the regulators knew this was going on or was going to happen. And of course now it's getting a little too political and crazy. And I'll call it the industry. So kind of at large, like for example, the stone countertop industry. There's things that it's working on, but just also the whole concept of you get in this business, this is what you got to do to make money. You've got these wildcat companies or contractors that take shortcuts and put pressure on the ones trying to do it right. Those kind of things I'll wrap up in the industry. And then we have the employee, which is often forgotten, and the picture here is purposely blurred because we don't often get to see into obviously to the life of the employee, and the factors there are kind of unknown, maybe except for them. So we'll explore that as well. So again, going by fours here, I just want to give some examples here. So like the employer, you've got the line managers that have a big effect on day-to-day health and safety. You've got whatever safety or industrial hygienist professional is guiding the employer or giving advice or consultation. You've got labor exploitation, and I want to talk about that eventually and how that factors in. And then of course workers' comp, which for better or for worse is a transfer of risk and really isn't maybe the greatest system to help employees avoid occupational disease. Okay, so then we have the regulator, and again, industrial hygiene. What work is a regulator doing about actual exposure limits, enforcement of that? You've got the phone book of regulations. So you at some point, if you've got this giant book of regulations that are not really prioritized except for maybe by each regulator visit, that can be a problem because the employer, instead of concentrating on preventing occupational disease, is maybe you could say distracted with other more minor things. On accountability, I really want to talk about this. I found that, and regulator OSHA and local offices and that kind of thing, I think it's really a problem. They are not accountable to anyone really, and I've had a few things where I've tried to address concerns or corrections and not gotten very far. And then workers' comp plays a role here. Obviously, it's a regulation. It's something employers have to follow. And then we have the industry here. So, for example, the supply chain. There's California and Australia are considering a ban on engineered stone. What are the consequences of that? There's lobbying. The industry, a lot of industry spoke up with the silica, the new OSHA silica standard, and they had their own complaints. And, that sat on the desk of the president for quite a while, that regulation. And I believe Obama or his administration signed it at the end of his term. And, the big transfer of risk. This is, again, you can go into a lot of different ways with this. Temp employees, subcontractors, and accountability. And then, of course, lawyers in the industry can be high profile and do a lot of things. And then, so, now the employee, and it's not just, I'll tell you, if you've been in the safety and health profession for a while, sometimes you're the person that most debates you or pushes back is the employee for various reasons. But, you have to look at their health care. And I haven't looked into this in detail yet, but California found a lot of silicosis cases, and it seems to, because part of it is all of them kind of get funneled to a particular healthcare location, and maybe they're kind of looking for it. Whereas, in the state of Texas, I find it very interesting that for like the last 2 years, they haven't gotten a report of silicosis, while the rest of the world and other states seem to be finding them in quite a bit these days. The financial disposition of the employee, the previous employer I had, it was actually, the employees wanted overtime, and overtime was the most important thing, and they actually cut short their health and safety for those overtime perks. So that those are the kind of financial things that come into play. And of course, the attitudes of the employee. You can tell them how dangerous it is. You can tell them how they can protect themselves, but ultimately you cannot control them day to day and get in their head. So I find this all very interesting, and this is the kind of things that we will explore in this documentary. And now I'm just going to quick show you a video. So the 12 cases of silicosis in Texas in 2019. I've identified the employer. I'm like 99.9% sure, based on OSHA sampling and timing in a particular article. And it's not a stone countertop manufacturer as advertised. They make epoxy resin laboratory countertops. And so we'll end. I'll just attach a video here I found from their YouTube of one of the things they do, I guess, to process the countertops.
And do an edge profile on two sides of this marine edge top. Again, you're going to start a sander in a 100 grit sand belt. Place your sander along the edge of the piece itself and just start breaking off that edge, removing the black shiny part. Make sure